Hello, everybody. It's good to see y'all or hear y'all. Drop me a note in the comments if you're here, joining me for this LinkedIn Live today. Um, so I get asked all the time about being by other BIPOC entrepreneurs about how I left my corporate job as the head of DEI for Zappos, and my answer is there was no plan B. There was not another option. I was totally at peace with the decision and just intuitively knew that it was time to go. And I know that big decisions like leaving the perceived safety and security of a 9 to 5 is easier said than done. And today I'm going to share a little bit more about how I found the courage to bet on myself and to do my own thing. So, if for those of you who do not know me, I am Carissa Begonia. I am a business coach for BIPOC entrepreneurs, a LinkedIn expert, and top voice. I'm a second generation Filipina American daughter of immigrants and the first and only in my family to start my own business. I believe that entrepreneurship is the path to equity and liberation. And at Conscious Exchange, we are creating an ecosystem of BIPOC entrepreneurs to be able to achieve time, location, financial, and occupational freedom by building their own businesses that support ourselves, our families, and our communities. So thanks again for joining Built by BIPOC on this Q&A Tuesday, where myself and my business besties will provide some tips for questions that we commonly get asked about as BIPOC entrepreneurs. So let's talk about how I decided to leave my corporate career to start my own business. A little backstory: I was the head of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion at Zappos in 2016. And I loved my role. I actually pitched for that role because saw an opportunity. We had a strong corporate social responsibility team, philanthropy, and um, green initiatives, sustainability, but we didn't have a formal diversity office. And so I had been running a women's group, ERG, if you will, for a couple years at the time, and alongside my day job or my business, or sorry, my main role as a merchandise planning manager for more on the retail operation side of the business. And as I was running those events, right, running that like group, hosting events and such, I realized that I was much more interested in people development than I was in all the operational work and analysis that I was doing. And so I had pitched to our C-suite the idea of being able to start this DEI um, group or DI role. And I got it, which was exciting. And also um, uh, really pushed my my skill set of bringing people together, bringing communities together, strategizing and organizing, right? And so I did that for a few years, and then at some point, I think maybe a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion practitioners can feel this, but you start to realize that it is really challenging pushing up this boulder up a hill as often as the solo DEI leader in your company, right? So, addition to pushing and meeting and organizing and creating all these different initiatives within my company and leadership development programs, like they were going well. I had also personally been in Vegas. Zappos is located in Las Vegas for over almost 5 years, and I have never been in a job longer than 4 years. I've never really moved, like lived in a place for much longer than that either. And so I was starting to get itchy just personally to start exploring another city to reside in. So with that, a few things were happening, and so I'm going to get into some tips of what what's going on through my mind that you can hopefully use as you are discerning potentially to learn to leave your own job to start your own business, right? So one was around mindset. So one of the big benefits I had around when I was the head of DEI at Zappos was I became a certified emotional intelligence coach. I was very adamant that there was no way that we were going to really understand each other, be able to hear any of these fantastic ideas about truly creating equity and inclusion and diversity within our organization if we couldn't listen to each other, if we couldn't even see or hear or frankly even respect each other, right? And so it was really important for me to that myself, but also our organization be grounded or in the skill set of emotional intelligence of EQ. And so I applied that really to myself because in that time when I was like, okay, I had this opportunity to potentially go, they were restructuring the company, and I'm like, all right, do I want to stay or do I want to leave? And so I decided I used my skill set of EQ, with the main one being self-awareness and checking in with what was going on emotionally and in my body, and just being very aware of what I was feeling, right? Naming my emotions. That's one of the main skill sets you learn in EQ. And for me, when I say there was an absolute peace and like just knowing intuitively, I had no other choice. There was no other choice. I had no other option. This was what I was going to do. And when I thought about, potentially doing something different at the organization, taking on a different role, or leaving and doing something on my own, right? It was almost a no brainer. And I think sometimes we will get into a place where we don't trust that. We're like, oh yeah, but what's going to happen like if we actually try to do something by ourselves, right? We're going to fail. There's this kind of idea that, especially as a daughter of immigrants, that that I'm going to fail, and now what's the safety net, right? But the reality was that I did have a safety net. I had my savings. I had things like lined up, but more importantly, I just didn't even none of that. I just didn't see actually that there was a different option, that like choosing to actually finally bet on myself. I had built so many different departments in organizations. I was an entrepreneur at all the companies I'd worked at since I started and graduated from college and started working. And so I was playing with other people's money to build their divisions, build their businesses inside. And so what would happen if I actually bet on myself? And how for me, to me, how much more amazing would it be if I actually really truly believed in the thing I was building with all of my gut, all of my core? So the first part is my mindset and using the skill set of emotional intelligence to be able to notice all of that deep belief in myself and not get caught up with the imposter syndrome or the inner critic telling me otherwise. So two, I have learned this phrase as when I was an analyst, that 3 data points make a trend. So as much as I'm like, yes, mindset, faith, and all of that is important, on the other part of me is the other part is just very practical, right? So I thought, what do I need to know? What are the data points, the evidence I have that I'm going to be okay, right? And I was looking for at least 3, right, to take it back to my analyst days. And so one, like I said, I had built other companies internally. I had built other departments from nothing, from scratch, right? This is how I was getting promoted quickly and climbing the ladder quickly in corporate America. So I knew I did this at Macy's. I created a new division. I created a whole nother ERG also when I was at Macy's, not just owning my own multi-million-dollar portfolio. I got promoted really quickly in the more planning work at Zappos, and I pitched to our C-suite and was able to create this DEI organization within the company. So I had proof for myself that I knew what I was doing, and I could figure it out. And I had a great network of folks who to be able to support me, and had that skill set too of being able to network. So pulling different pieces of evidence, right, that were allowing me to see like, okay, Carissa, you might not have built your own business before, but you have built businesses, internal organizations, right, within your companies over the last 10 to almost 15 years. So why, yes, it's different, but it's not like you're starting from nothing. So looking for the hard evidence that you can apply to this new world of entrepreneurship, right? And then the third lesson or the third tip I have is, what I was alluding to before, was surrounding yourself with people that you trust, that can support you, right? So before I left or while I left, the first people I ended up working with were folks that I knew, actually people that I met through Zappos who were like, very interested in values aligned because I was running again this DEI organization, DEI department. And so I just was meeting people constantly because I was looking at different contractors and vendors to bring into the organization, and just made a lot of great friends, right? And more so than maybe when I was an analyst, because again, of that values alignment. So when I was able to meet, I like think about all the people I knew that I reached out to everybody. I'm like, hey, I'm doing my own thing, right? So would it, what's, is it possible, or like, let's have a conversation, right? And so from there I had more confidence about the just like making that decision, because I was kind of like tapping people already, like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this thing, what do you think? Like, and I just have such wonderful family members, my best friends I've known for decades, right? And even you folks again that I just had this wonderful connection with. And so when I first left, I pretty much already moved into consulting or contracting roles because I had this great network. So those are the three tips I would say of like what really helped me discern what if I was ready to leave. And I just must have to reiterate again that all the practical tips are important, right? Knowing that you have, say, for yourselves, right? A plan, an exit plan, setting a date. I didn't have a full exit plan, but I know if I could go back and do it again, I would. But set a date for your exit, right? It'll give you some maybe encouragement and excitement or motivation to find to like hit like leave at that time. Look at your life expenses and how much you need to take care of yourself for 6 months, right? Some of us really are don't either have the finances, or we do and we're just not looking at it and calculating it and being solid and like, yes, I actually can take care of myself for if I in the event that I my business doesn't work and I do need to go back to a corporate job. um, Remember that you're also paying for healthcare, right? So look at how much health is going to cost for you. Look at thinking about when you're looking at your budget, look at your how much you might need to save for taxes, right? Anywhere from 15 to 30%, depending on what state you live in. So these practical things, you want to, if you can plan your exit, not everyone can, but if you can plan your exit, those are some ways I would say that you can be more prepared than I was. But even more, like I said, then uh, the practical things that I wanted to make sure were in place, that I would have made sure of in place if I um, spent more time planning. I would, what was more important to me was checking in again with myself and knowing that I had just, having this beep, knowing this intuition that I was ready, right? And that if it didn't work out, I could always do something else. But to be honest, for me, like I said, there was no plan B. Like we were just going to go and we were going to figure it out. And I'm so glad that I stuck to it and I did it, because now I am a full-time six-figure business entrepreneur, replaced my salary in that the first few years of running my business, and I don't think I could ever go back, right? And my mission really is now to be able to show other BIPOC entrepreneurs how to do the same thing. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take them. Happy to look. I'll take a look at the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me again today on this Q&A Tuesday. If you have any questions that you want answered, just drop them in the comments and I'll look to answer them in future Q&A Tuesdays. And thank you again for watching. If you want to attend more events for BIPOC entrepreneurs to help you start, grow, and scale your own business to six figures, multiple six figures, and beyond, join the mailing list at Conscious Exchange in the comments. Belonging in community is a necessity. It's so important, and we won't get free on our own. So let's go create our liberatory futures together. Bye, y'all.